The VR Podcast, your realm for all things immersion tech in education and business.
Hi, and welcome to the Virtual Reality Podcast YouTube channel for all things immersion tech in education and in business. If you enjoy what you see here, please make sure to give us a like and subscribe below. If you have any questions or you want to make a comment about this video, about immersion tech, or the Virtual Reality Podcast, please do that too.
Thanks for joining me today. And I
you
see
for
you
having
have the Daydream shirt on. So do me a favor, introduce yourself and tell me what your passion is, what's your background that led you to the current project you're working on.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Aviv Elor. I'm a researcher at University of California, Santa Cruz. And I explore the applications of virtual reality for physical therapy and robotics. I have worked on a crazy amount of random projects, from like autonomous drones to efficient traffic management systems. But what really pulled me into my current project is I completely tore my ligament during an international judo competition. And the therapy process was just rigorous. I had to get reconstructive surgery, literally went through therapy for a year. I mean, even for the first month, I could barely put on my own pants. I had to ask my roommate for help. So yeah, this project was just really meaningful for me when my professor approached me and said, I want to use virtual reality to make therapy better. And so what I do is I use commercially available systems like the HTC Vive to try to make physical therapy more accessible, affordable, and accurate. One of my more recent projects, I took the Vive and I created a game where you protect this butterfly from incoming projectiles and rain, but in reality, I'm getting you to do like bicep curls and shoulder extensions and so on.
You're tricking the. I guess that would be the. Is that cognitive? Actually, you're engaging the cognitive that way. Yeah, that's cool. You're tricking the muscles, or tricking the brain into making the muscles work. That's cool.
No, I've definitely been inspired by Tom Furness a lot. His study with Snow World are just showing how burn victims, when compared with morphine in VR, that the VR was incredibly efficient. I mean, it inspired my current game.
Wow, that's amazing, and that is mind blowing when you think of pain therapy.
Yeah.
For VR instead of opioids like you talked about earlier today. That's just like, for me, I'm just like, would that work for me?
Yeah.
And maybe so. I mean, the research is showing that it's yielding some benefits, right?
I mean, I was just shocked when I read that. And so, I mean, I tried creating these stimulating interactions like Snow World, for example. What Tom did is he really exaggerated this environment to distract these burn victims. I'm trying to do the same thing in my physical rehabilitation game, where it's very colorful. The sound is there, the haptic feedback is there. You know, you just feel this environment, and as a result, you're not struggling with your physical therapy. You're protecting this butterfly. And then on top of that, we're doing crazy stuff like interfacing these games with exoskeleton support systems and Arduino.
Oh my gosh! So I saw some images of what y'all had presenting in there.
Yeah.
So, and it looked like that maybe. Well, it was supporting, the exoskeleton was supporting one of the arms, or it was some type of biomechanics?
So it's a little different from the traditional exoskeleton. Our lab does a lot of tensegrity, or in a nutshell, we use tension and integrity, so to speak.
Gotcha.
But it's like, imagine you're wearing a suit that's like a marionette doll, where these wires are pulling your arm in certain ways that aren't constricting, that help you perform like a bicep curl or a shoulder raise. And that's kind of what the suit is doing. And so the game, because like systems like the HTC Vive need to be very accurate to prevent motion sickness, we're getting this motion capture data and feeding it into the suit and having it react appropriately.
Yeah, that is spectacular. So it's basically, well, I mean, it's a lightweight version of an exosuit, I would imagine. Very light. And probably easy to troubleshoot if something goes wrong. I mean,
there's a lot of wires.
The wiring I'm imagining is quite difficult.
No.
So, do y'all work with a particular entity on maybe implementing or doing action research for this type of therapy?
So we do work with local therapy organizations. I mean, we're based in Santa Cruz. We work with Cabrillo College Stroke and Disability Learning Center. We work with Hope Services. And so these therapists, we're not just designing these things because we think, oh, hey, that should work. No, we're asking for their feedback. I mean, even with my games, I have users come in weekly and they try the games, and I figure out what works, what doesn't, and I change it based upon observation and therapist feedback and even the user's feedback. You know, you got to keep them in mind when designing these experiences.
Absolutely. I mean, the user experience or the UX or UI is, I think it's coming into its role that it needs, that prominence. It is important.
Yeah, definitely.
In the world of education, it's been notorious that when it comes to technology, the user interface or the user experiences, they don't care about that.
Yeah, it's always been a challenge with some companies.
Yeah, it's clunky and it's
yeah.
not very good looking.
Yeah.
It doesn't capture attention or doesn't make you passionate about doing those things.
Yeah, I think we're slowly seeing a shift, though. I mean, more and more companies are definitely keeping the user in mind and taking their opinion, with these updates, and I think that's crucial, especially when working with virtual reality. A lot of the people that I work with are users. They're like, I'll never use that. This is way too complicated. And I'm like, no, it's, here, take a look. I designed this game so it's so simple. You don't even have to click anything. And they're, oh yeah, I want to do this therapy,
Yeah, that's, that's the goal. I mean, you want to pull users into it.
Yeah.
And do you think that maybe a part of that shift is, well, obviously generationally, you get new people in, but maybe it's because now we're seeing more and more developers than we ever have in the past.
Yeah.
Because of things are more accessible, like Unity and things like that. That are open source and are free for the most part, outside of if you're going to buy some SDKs, which most of the large companies give you the SDKs for their implementation. So, so tell me about your role with, like, how does Google support you? Like, what does that look like?
So Google pretty much saw my research. They totally saw me on LinkedIn and they sent me a message. And so I got invited to the Daydream Innovator Program. Oh. And so in a nutshell, they support me by providing me hardware. And I'm talking like unreleased hardware, like SDK
things you had to sign NDAs for?
Well, I mean, I won't talk about those.
There's an NDA about the NDA. So,
but no, yeah, they've been just amazing, and they've signed me up for free classes. The other week I took the first ever G Suite online certification. It is one of the most engaging tests I've ever taken.
So did you? Was it the new one?
The very new one.
Yeah,
not the architecture one.
Yeah. So I'm really looking forward to the complete revamp. For years they've used, I think, Criterion's back end for that. So this new one is all in house from Google, right?
All in house. They do use ProctorU during your test, but aside from that, I mean, they literally give you a G Suite account and you play around with these files to show your proficiency.
Yeah, you have to do task oriented. One of the big things for educators is, well, there's four, but the three big ones are educator level 1, and then level 2, and then trainer is the big one for us, and it's task oriented, but it's really been created by Criterion, and Google just kind of loosely seems to have an affiliation with that, or maybe they own Criterion now. You never know.
Yeah.
I mean, as of like yesterday they didn't, maybe by today they do. You never can tell with those things. But and I think that's a good move on their part. I've been really looking forward to the revamp, because one thing that Google does very well is they push out updates that are beneficial to all their products. So I'm very excited about that. So talk to me a little bit about your experience with other VR besides physical therapy.
So my experience with other VR aside from physical therapy, well, I mean, I'm a total gamer.
Oh yeah, that's where we're getting at. Yeah.
It's funny. In high school, I actually thought I was going to be a D1 football player. I used to get up like 2 times. I'd get up at like 4 a.m. I'd train. Then I'd go to practice. Then I'd go back to the gym at 10 p.m. And then around senior year, I found out that maybe I just wasn't tall enough for it. But so I've always had a love of video games. Don't tell Microsoft this, but I totally hacked my Xbox and held modded lobbies on Modern Warfare 2.
And that's okay, kids.
Yeah, well,
No, it's not okay. I did not endorse that. No.
All right. But so that's kind of like how I got into computer programming. I ran my own Minecraft servers, and I wrote mods. So you could do like / punch player, and they just fly across the map. But so I was a total nerd and a football player. And when I figured out I didn't want to do football, I fell into UCSC, and I wanted to be the best engineer I could be. And this was also around the time that virtual reality was getting really big. I mean, I still remember when YouTube got their VR. I was just blown away.
Yeah.
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 That when when that came available, and of course you had to have the hardware to push it was mind-blowing. And my first experience with that, funny enough, was when The Force Awakens came out. That was my first 360 that I experienced on YouTube. And it was powerful. You're like, oh, wait. Because, they had Street View and they've had cardboard and things like that, but photospheres are one thing. Having something that is in motion is another. And so, but now I'm spoiled, and now I want 6DOF like on everything. I wanted them on the palm of my hand. Can we have that, please?
I'm very excited for that. And especially Google's WorldSense. As a researcher, I mean, the main reason why I use the HTC Vive is because of that 6DOF. And I personally believe it has the most accurate motion capture, which is why I use it. Perfect. But it looks like these smartphones, or at least these cheaper headsets, are finally getting 6DOF, and I think that's very powerful for therapy. Yeah.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, when you can only just move your head, it doesn't do a whole lot. You need a full immersion experience, especially in physical therapy.
It's disorienting as well. 3DOF. Yeah.
It really is. Yeah. And for myself, I can become very sick because I have an eye condition. So I find that 6DOF for me is actually more comfortable, and I can stay in it longer than I can with a traditional 3DOF model. So it sort of plays around with the quality and the refresh rate, but all in all, the 6DOF, the ability to be able to move in the environment instead of just moving my head around, helps me.
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah, no, it seems like these headsets are only getting better and better.
Yeah, well, better and better, and down in price.
Yeah, which is definitely important.
Yeah, very important. I mean, it's when they first came out with a tethered 6DOF, like I have an Oculus Rift, and they didn't even have the laptops that had the graphics cards to push it, unless you were getting like the highest end, like Alienware. But even that was pushing it. So you had the big desktop units, you had the tower and stuff. Oh, let me take this down the street. And so you load up, like the whole back of your car gets filled with all this gear just for this experience, but the experiences were great.
Yeah. No, they really were, yeah. No, I still remember, I think back in the early 2000s, I hit up the boardwalk at Santa Cruz, and they had this really old VR headset that, I don't know if you ever played it, like the tank game that you put on the helmet.
Was it the yellow thing that you pull down?
Those.
Yes, yes.
No, it's just crazy to see how far this technology has come.
Gosh. It's the promise of VR in the 80s and the 90s was disappointing. And I got to be honest, I thought it had disappeared forever. Yeah. But, when Virtual Boy came out I mean, I wanted it and I got it. And it was terrible. I mean, it was basically, I'm just going to put a TV on my face. Yeah. And it was a terrible TV.
It's a shame Sega never released the RoboCop VR headset.
Oh, man. I know this. And actually, I was watching YouTube about the failed Sega VR. And do you know why they did not release it?
I read about it. I don't remember though.
Okay, so they said it was motion sickness.
Yeah,
the quality wasn't good enough in the experience, and so they said it was too much or too high a percentage in their testing to send it out because they thought people were going to sue, and so no more Sega VR, which is it's interesting because I mean we're seeing that now. Yeah, with really junky VR that's coming out and people not really considering the end user again.
Yep, very important.
It is very important. So, tell everybody how, if they want, could they get in touch with you somehow? Are you on social media? Or are you something?
Of course. So, just look up my name on Google, Aviv Elor. I mean, I'll definitely show up. Hit me up on LinkedIn, Gmail, Facebook. I'm always looking for people to collaborate with. I mean, the whole reason why I'm doing this is because when I went to engineering from football, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I came from hacking video games to making therapy simulations. And I just want to try to use my work to make something meaningful. And so, if you have any ideas or if you want to collaborate, hit me up. I'm all for it.
Man, that's perfect. You heard that. I mean, and that's what I love about these conferences. Yeah. You meet people like Aviv, and they really want to help others, and others want to help others, and it's a really good environment. And it makes for really good results because people become very inspired.
Yeah.
And I'm inspired by your talk today. So thank you for coming. I know that you're busy because I saw that you got a lot going on over there. So I don't want to take any more of your time.
Well,
so
thank you for having me, James.
I appreciate it.
Want to hear more or connect with us? Subscribe to the podcast and find us on social media at The VR Podcast.